that interview, and an hour later, they finally posted it. An hour later. It's a whole week later.
Oh, you talking about police?
Mm-hmm.
Let me go on real quick. Yo, WMBT 90.1 from the beach. Your boy Jerk Jerkins right here. And since they woke Gainesville, I have Miss Chanae Jackson Baker in the building, and man, we are hanging out, talking a lot about some developing stories from this week. And I guess I do want to start with the disappearance of Mrs. Jasmine Robinson. I just want to read some quick headlines, and then we can you can definitely give me your take on all things I'm very much interested in hearing. Now, Mrs. Jasmine Robinson, who is 23 years old, she's been reported missing to the Alachua County Sheriff's Office since February 19th. Ms. Robinson is currently 6 to 7 months pregnant, and her family and members are worried for her and her unborn child. Now, ASO shared a missing persons flyer on Tuesday night, and they said that they did not consider her in danger. But now, after a strong public outcry, Ms. Jasmine Robinson is now considered missing and endangered, with indications that she was not ready to leave her home when she disappeared. Now, Ms. Robinson is about 7 months pregnant, like I just said, and she has uncharacteristically missed a doctor's appointment along with other appointments. No one in her family has heard from her since February 18th, and she left items at home that she would ordinarily take when she left the house. Now, anyone with information about Ms. Robinson, or if they know anything, you're urged to call the family at 352-214-5375 or 352-872-4464. Or you can call authorities yourself at 352-367-4083. Now, Miss Baker, what I want to talk to you about is the community sentiment seems to be that this could be handled a whole lot better than it had. Can you kind of just give us an overview of some things that people have been complaining about this week?
It was handled poorly by one WCJB TV20. Also handled improperly by Alachua County Sheriff's Office. The reason that we've gotten as far as we have, it has been because of the public outcry. She went missing a week ago. By all accounts, the most important time to find anything that happens to someone is the first 48 hours. So the fact that the only reason that this now gained traction is a week later, that's very disturbing. What's most disturbing is with WCJB TV20, they stated that, because I didn't know anything about it, a mutual Facebook friend actually shared a flyer that was done by a family member. So to me, I question, why do we not know about it? And I recall things like when Christian Aguilera, a University of Florida student, was missing. He was on the news, it was on a cycle, it was repeatedly, it was over and it was over. There was so much support. I go back to when Omar Gibson turned up missing forever ago. It was the same response. Nobody really did anything. It had to be the family. Everybody was upset. And we still don't know what Omar is or actually what happened. And even then, law enforcement just dropped the ball in the manner in which they're reporting it. Even in Omar's case,
I can remember that specifically. They've been went as far as to demonize his character.
That's what happened. And then the same thing happened here. So that's what stood out. You got a young woman who is almost 7 months pregnant that disappeared. And the most important thing that you think to put in the story was that she had an upcoming court date. For me, and I always tell people that, I think different because I live in two worlds. One world is, yes, I'm educated and I am book smart and professional, but I also live in the street world. And that world that's the manner in which I was raised. And street smarts counts for a whole lot. When you tell me that she left 10 days in advance to a court date, I know that not to be so. If you have any family members that have ever been in trouble and that haven't failed to appear, when they booked on that court date, they booked the date of the court date and they had a warrant, so that's why they disappeared. But a family member always knew where they was. So if that be the case because somebody left for a court date, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, which is what I actually pointed out to one of TV20's editors on one of the Facebook posts. She just would not do that. Other things that were of concern to me being a regular person, so I know that Alachua County Sheriff's Office had this information, is she left with no money. She had almost $2,000 saved that was left in a drawer. So therefore, if she was leaving to flee, when she take money, she got to eat, she got to live, she got to have things to do. She left with no vehicle. She couldn't get around on her own. She received a disturbing phone call at work that day, and then she disappeared that night or early that particular morning. So my thing is, even if you wanted to play the angle, and I even said that because it's journalism, that she had an upcoming court date, that could be a factor. If TV20 is really a journalist that are about journalism, why would they not include the other facts? So then, whenever a call should have been made, their decision was just to pull the story completely instead of just removing that part. So even for me, the way I think is, I know that she's not the only person that's had a background that actually turned up missing, but it's the first time I've seen such a big deal be made about it. So I think it was Tara Richardson, and then I had a few other people that did that. They went and looked up other cases of missing people and went to the clerk of the court and said, hey, they had backgrounds. So then TV's 20 rationale is, well, oh, their cases was closed. The point is this, the most important part of this, the conversation is, a young woman that is pregnant is missing. So even if you didn't think she was worth saying that she was in danger, the life of her unborn child should have been the biggest emphasis that anybody actually has to say.
Facts. There's two things I was just thinking about when you were talking. One is, in the Gainesville Sun, Art Forgery, the spokesperson for the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, he mentioned that they had to go through, you know, all the legalese of getting subpoenas in order to do certain things. Now, my question is, if they knew about her disappearance, it says here on February 19th, which is almost 2 weeks now. It seemed like that would have been a place where they would have started to get that ball rolling back then. That
should have been a place to get that ball rolling back then. With the information, just with the information that they had that the public didn't have, that the sheriff's office did have, they should have gotten that ball rolling back then. If you look at the timing, I will commend Valeria Thomas, because she came in and tried to do damage control for WCJB, and she really did a good job of humanizing Miss Robinson, and then also getting her family side of the story out. But even prior to that, ASO, there were other news outlets who wanted to pick up the story, but it was not on ASO's page at all. So you can go and post a part of a 23-minute long video to criminalize my son because you're mad about my Facebook video, but you don't think that it was imperative that a pregnant missing woman was somewhere that we couldn't find her to post that. Even in Valeria's interview, there were 3 specific questions that I requested that she asked. And after that, an hour later, then ASO, a day late and $1 short, posted it. One question was, what does it take in order for her to be classified as endangered? They said either they have to have a history of like a medical illness, so like diabetes and things like that, or some mental illness. Well, her medical deal is that she's pregnant. The same day, on the 19th that she was reported missing, she didn't show up to a doctor's appointment then. Wow. So therefore, that was reason enough to classify her. Anyone that knows anything about being pregnant knows that 3rd trimester is a be-all, end-all. They tell you not to travel. You start to go to the doctor once a week because it's that important and imperative getting toward childbirth. The second question I asked was, how many women do they know that in the 3rd trimester that just disappeared because of a court date for whatever reason? And Brett, who the spokesperson for ASO at that time, didn't have an answer. And so, like I stated, he didn't have an answer because there is no answer. Pregnant women just don't disappear about a court date that's still a whole 10 days later. And then the third question I asked is, how is it that we get a search launched? Because like I stated, in my mind, all I remember is Christian Aguilera and how diligently ASO search and how TV20 was all over that story. And then we have this young woman that gained no traction until we made TV20 and Alachua County Sheriff's Office be accountable. It was after that time that, if you notice, that the narrative has started to change where they believe that she's in danger. But they don't have any new information. All the information that TV20 and Alachua County Sheriff's Office had, they had when she was reported missing on the 19th.
One thing I think you just pointed out is that, well, TV20, one of the things that they were kind of using for their slow response was that law enforcement didn't think she was endangered at the time. And then after turn of events, after Valeria's story, like you just mentioned, they put a story out an hour later.
Yep.
So I think that's another place that we really have to hone in on as far as our criticism of law enforcement as well as our local media, is that the local media is, and as they should in a lot of cases, they're taking a lot of their information directly from, you know, public records or whatever the public updates are of the spokesmen of the different entities like the police department. But what happened here was they were like chasing each other.
Yep. And
that's the crazy part. That's the part that we really have to focus on, because it's like it's incompetence.
Absolutely.
So
or not necessarily incompetence, that's their excuse not to act. So for me, and people always hear, we always wait until something major happens and then we want to actually hold them accountable. I want us to realize that it doesn't start with Jasmine being missing. That's just a puzzle piece in this biggest thing. You know, people get upset when you say Black Lives Matter. But this is one of those cases. She was deemed not to be important because she was a black woman that went missing. And it's not just here in Gainesville. They actually are having stories about it. There's a young woman, Alexis, I think her last name was pronounced Gianna, on Facebook, who actually has a play that's at the Hippodrome. So I think the final showing is March the 4th. And it's talking about black and brown girls going missing without a trace.
All the time.
And so it happens so very consistently because they think that we're not important.
Lack of media coverage too.
Always.
And the eerie thing about that is, I was researching this recently, is that the numbers have stayed the same over the years.
Absolutely.
So how is it that the same amount of our community is going missing every year? Like, that's impossible, I think, mathematically, but
and that's what it is.
So something's going on.
Well, and that's the point. It's deliberate. Even you brought the point up about the public record search. What upset me is you can do a public record search. So just like TV20 did, I did as well. Even as they're talking about this upcoming court date, it was a court date. So she's never been in trouble. So with Florida's point system, she would never score to go to prison. So there's not a reason for her to have been scared of the court date. That's number one. All she's had is some few traffic tickets.
Right.
But then when you look at the actual court date that they were going for, it was a change of plea. Typically, a change of plea actually happens when the court or the state attorney said, hey, do these particular things. If you do this, we're going to give you a plea deal. That plea deal can be a withholding of adjudication. It can be probation. It can do those things.
Like a resolution.
That's it. So it's a resolution to the case. So when you even look at the dockets, that's what was about to happen. So my frustration is, even with the media, since you're so into journalism, how could you not tie those two things together? That's either it's deliberate or that's very irresponsible journalism. Either way, we don't have enough space here in this city for that. And if they're irresponsible in their journalism or something that's so major, think about other incidences that have happened with interactions with law enforcement, with people being mistreated in the hospital, parents being mistreated at the children's schools and different things like that. We're never going to get the traction that we need. We're never going to have our voice adequately heard if they can't report a story right. And so there has to be a much greater level of accountability. We have to stop sitting back and complaining about it and actually doing something about it.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk a lot about that later on in the show, about different, what we feel like our response should be to things like this. But we are going to take a break from here just really quick, and we're going to move on to some more topics. But before we do, I want to give out the phone numbers again for Mrs. Jasmine Robinson's, for any updates that anybody in the community may have, or if y'all have any sites, any information at all. Again, the family's phone numbers are 352-214-5375 or 352-872-4464. I feel more comfortable with speaking directly to law enforcement authorities. That's 352-367-4083. And that's for any information on the disappearance of Mrs. Jasmine Robinson. We also had some other crazy headlines this week that I want to talk about too. So we're going to get into those, but after a quick song. Y'all don't go nowhere. Keep it locked right here.